Good morning again. Happy Friday. Hope you've had a really good week. Well, let's get into it. We're a little bit late this morning because I've already been working on this. Really would like to get the logic wrinkles in this ironed out so that I can make the demo video on how to use this and then move on. Get a live version out to the students before their classes start in a week. So that's why we're back here, and there's been a lot that has been ironed out, but I just still have to walk through it. So the main thing that has been happening is that we're getting different game modes or parts of modes overlapping each other, and they keep fighting each other, which leads to unpredictable or unreliable results in the use of the game. So what I've put in is essentially a gate, a kind of system that essentially won't let the player switch from one mode to another mode at will. The player has to switch from one mode to another mode by first going back to an idle mode, a kind of hub mode. So you can only go from that hub mode out to the other three modes of the game. So the three modes are building and editing and exploration. And it used to be that you could switch from any of these modes to any of these other modes, but that would leave all sorts of settings kind of set in a way that things started to conflict and collide with each other. So I've put a mode system as an enum in place, and in order to go from one mode to another, you have to go back to the idle mode first and then go into your next mode, which is a little bit cumbersome, but it's the only way I'm hoping that I will be able to really manage to take care of and track down and keep my kind of modes separate. So that's a bunch of logic in the code, and I've gotten that mode system overlay into the code, or that wrapper. It's not really a wrapper, I guess, but that kind of overlay of logic, that next gate, that gatekeeper in the system. But of course, I have a bunch of gatekeepers, as we'll see, and as we saw on Wednesday morning. So now I'm trying to get the gatekeepers to talk to each other, which I knew would be one of my problems. This is kind of a patch rather than a kind of rebuilding, because really what needs to be done, again, is the code base needs to kind of be rebuilt and stripped, or at least kind of redundant features need to be kind of stripped out, so that things don't fight so much, and I don't have to check and make sure so many flags and variables and gatekeepers are set properly every time. But it's the nature of the project. It keeps evolving. New functions keep getting added, and that requires more gates and flags and checks, and then things start to fall apart again. So let's go for a little stroll through what I want to have happen and what actually happens. Of course, the code is doing exactly what it's told to. There aren't any crashes, which is great. It's just problems with my thinking. So the game's already in play mode. It enters play mode really fast, which is a lovely thing. And we're just going to hit the new game. We're going to jump in. So we are in the idle mode, and I'm going to turn on my little debug overlay. It's up in the upper right corner there. The stream may not show that very clearly because it's pretty small print. So anyway, it says, if you can't read it, that I'm in idle mode right now, and that's great. So I can walk around and move around, but I can't like click and build anything. I can't do anything else. But from this hub mode, I could switch into editing, although there's nothing to edit. I could switch into exploration. Exploration is basically just when you shrink down to like human size rather than this kind of semi-overview size. There's not much else you can do in that mode right now. It doesn't differ from idle too much. And then there's building mode, and that's really what we want to jump into first. So I'm going to jump into building mode by just pressing the key B. A couple things will happen. There we go. The game mode has switched to building, and I now get my kind of cursor, which is running around on the screen. It's a bit of a weird, lazy cursor. I've got reasons for that. So I'm just going to build 3 standard bays here. These are going to be my demo bays. Great, all of that's kind of working. Cursor is working. So in the old version of the game, you could press the P key to switch into edit mode. and you would switch straight in, but I'm not now. I'm pressing the P key. I'm sure you can hear that over the mic. Nothing's happening. My mode's not changing. I'm still in build mode. That's great. So to get to edit mode, I have to hit the escape key, which I've done. Now I'm in idle mode. You can see my cursor isn't following me around on the screen anymore. I want to get my reticle back to the middle of the screen. Let's fight that fire later. So now I'm going to switch to edit mode, which is the P key. Now my reticle switches to the middle of the screen, and I can select different bays. Although again, my cursor's weirdly lazy here, and I don't 100% understand why. Like, I should be selecting that end bay right here, and sometimes I don't. I mean, there's some reasons for it. Anyway, it's a little bit awkward and lazy, but anyway. So I click on that bay, the bay is selected, and my cursor is now unlocked. So I have my regular system cursor in place. This is all what's supposed to happen. My game mode says it's editing. So that's really good. So now I'm going to delete this bay. So I'm just going to press backspace. And that pops me back into just regular selection mode. So that's good. So I could select another bay if I wanted to. Now I want to get out of editing mode and back into a different mode. So if I hit escape, I should be in idle mode again, and I am. So I can't select anything, I can't click anything, I can't cause any trouble. That's really good. Now let's hit B to go back into build mode. There we go, my cursor's jumped in, and I could be cheeky, and I could go build another bay, my bay right back in there again. I'm gonna have to drive into space here. So my bay's back in place. All right. But you see, though, I have the bay selected. It should not be selected. So I need to figure out what's going on with that selection thing here. So my game mode is building. Select object state is false. So I shouldn't have, so I need to be able to turn off the shader, that outline shader that does that selection thing. So why that's in place, I don't know. So we need to jump into my code and see what happens when we hit escape to get out of editing mode. So we'll jump in and do that. Not into OBS though, into Visual Studio. Too many icons. Okay, so this little method right here is what happens when you press backspace, and that deletes a bay, and that just pops you straight back into regular editing mode so you can make your selections. We need to go to the escape key, which is right here. So what this one says is if you hit the escape key or the back quote key, because if you hit escape in the editor, it breaks your cursor lock, things get weird. So it's the back quote, which is on my keyboard here, is directly underneath the escape key. On my laptop keyboard, which is a UK keyboard, that key is sitting next to the left shift. I don't know why they do it. The key that's under the escape key is bizarre, and I never used it in Britain, so I don't know why it's there. Anyway, that aside, so if I hit the escape key, or the back quote, this goes and checks my gate here. What game mode are we actually in? If we're in anything other than editing mode, the escape key in this chunk of code isn't going to take any input. It's just gonna break out of this function. So that's good. But we were in editing mode. So if the cursor select state equals 1, which means that the cursor can actually do selection, we do some things here. We say toggle amb flat colliders, which means that if we've got ambulatory flats around there, we turn off the colliders, which allow them to be selected or not. That's all that does. If block input is false, yep, that's the whole system-wide thing, which helps us set up whether we're in a menu UI mode or whether we're in a kind of in-game mode. If block input is false and we have no selected object, so nothing at all is selected, We broadcast set select state, which means that we deselect every object in the scene, and then we call deselect object, which deselects the current object. If we have no object selected at all, so this would just deselect objects. If we have no object deselected at all, if we have no object as a selected object, all it does is go straight into entering idle mode. And what we need to do is we need to clear out that overlay. So what happens here that doesn't happen here? I'm going to say that we're not broadcasting the set select state message. So that might be one thing that's happening, because that may turn off our overlay. And we're not calling the deselect method on the game state master. So let's go into the game state master and go see what the deselect method looks like there. And it's way up here somewhere. There are so many little methods in this. Set selected objects, deselect object. Okay, so deselect object does work with the outline effect. It's this line right here. So it sets the outline effect color to white. I need to change the outline effect to off completely. I need to figure out how I do that. So I'm going to look for this outline effect variable. Somewhere I need to turn that on and off. So that's what we're going to chase down. So we are right here, that's the last mention, but all we're doing is setting the color on the outline effect. All three of these references are only setting the color. I need to turn it off. So outline effect equals null. 2, 3. Okay, so it's not the effect I'm looking for. It's maybe the profile. I don't know. So we're going to look for this again. I just need to figure out how I'm toggling that profile on and off. It may be a layer-based thing. The outline effect may be running completely on a layer base. I think that's what's happening. Okay, so I need to go look and see how we're setting layers. How are we setting layers? So all I'm changing here in the game state master is the color of the outline effect. I need to be changing object layers, which might have something to do with this set select state message that gets broadcast. So let's go figure out who's listening to that. What I should do someday is make a little editor helper window or script that tracks down all of the listeners for messages, like their message type and then who's listening for it. That would be kind of cool, because then I wouldn't have to keep just searching for it. I don't know how I'd do that, but that would be a cool thing to do, because I use this messenger system all the time. Probably more than I ought to. Okay, so my amb blocker info is listening for the set select state. Message. The game state master is also listening for that. No, that's broadcasting it. It's not listening. The grid rebuild's broadcasting several places. The model info rebuild is listening to it. So let's go into the model info. So this is our data and a little bit of our logic, because I like to mix logic and data. It's listening to this as well. So let's see what happens when select state is called. So it sends an ID, and that's the ID of the object itself. So if the sent ID does not equal the instance ID of this object that the script is attached to, so that's basically everything that isn't selected, it changes the layer of the object right there. It changes it to layer 9. Game object gets changed to layer 9. That's default. Very good. if the ID matches, it sets it to layer 12. Now I'm trying to figure out what layer 8 is. So if each child in here does not equal layer 8, set it to 9. If it doesn't equal layer 8, set it to 12. So let's go figure out what layer 12 is really quickly. We're going to track this down. We'll get this. We'll get this. Plan blocks. Okay. So layer 8 are the... When you take a screenshot in this game, it does 2 screenshots. It takes a screenshot of whatever you're seeing through your camera. Cool. And then it also takes a screenshot from an invisible camera of invisible pieces, which is an orthographic view straight down, which gives you the plan of whatever it is you've built, which is kind of cool. Those plan blocks are invisible to the camera, the main in-game camera. They're only visible to the orthographic top-down camera for the plan view. So I understand why we're avoiding, because some of those plan pieces are stuck in the model itself, their geometry in the model, and they need to stay as layer 8. So this is why it combs through the children and ignores anything that's in layer 8. So layer 9 isn't default, 0's default, dingbat. Okay, model blocks is just a layer for model blocks. Layer 12 is your selection layer. Okay. So now I need to figure out why new objects I build after being in selection, why new objects I build get set to selection layer. And I bet it is because when we hit escape in our editing mode, so we're back into the grid rebuild and this function here that's listening for the escape key, when we're in editing mode, which is what we've got there, if we have no selected object, which is how we're popping out of that mode, I just jump us straight down to entering idle mode, that function there. What we really need to do is we probably need to call this select state -1. No object is going to get a -1 object ID, which means every single object is going to set its layers back to 12. I mean back to 9. My big question is, why did the new bay get set to 12? So let's look at what happens when we place a new bay. Okay, we place the preview bay there. I'm not seeing any layers, but that's because because this is just an object that already exists. When I want to actually put the model in place, I've got to spawn it. And somewhere in here, there's going to be, I'm hoping to find a place where I set the layer, Because I'm wondering if my preview objects are getting their layer set and then not unset. My preview objects are kind of like my prefabs, but they exist in the scene. They don't exist kind of just sitting in the project. And because of that, I may be setting their layers and then just not unsetting their layers. So I'm not seeing layers show up anywhere in here, so I'm going to just see if I can find it. Yeah, there's no results for layer. So I think what's happening is my layers are getting set because I've got like a model behavior script on my preview objects. Maybe. So I'm going to call this set select state even down here. And we'll see what happens. So really, I guess this set select state ought to be called regardless of what happens in this jump here. See if that fixes it. Let's go test. It's compiling away. no errors. That's really nice. So this is what I mean by just combing through and ironing out these logic wrinkles. Okay, let's go back to my debug overlay. We're in idle mode. Hit B to toggle into build mode. Gotta move around a little bit to get our cursor. Build, build, build. Very good. Hit P. Nope, we gotta hit escape first. Yep, and then hit P to go into edit mode. Let's select that middle object. Let's delete it. Everything's great. We're still in select mode. Our layers are still that way. So let's get out of edit mode. Okay, nothing's being selected. Great. Let's go back to build mode. There's my cursor. Marvelous. Cursor's jumping around all over the place because I have a weird cursor system. And that's all to solve a problem that maybe wasn't a problem. Okay. Oh, it's still selected. Oh my goodness. Okay. Let's go see this middle object. Which one is it? It's this guy. Yep, it's in the selection layer, and these others are in the model blocks layer. Why it's in the selection layer? Who knows? Let me go check and see what layer our prefab models are in. None of them. So this was a Romanesque nave bay single, and it's not. No, it's not a selection. Huh. Okay, well, let's put something in explicitly then. Not OBS. All right. Okay, let's get into our builder system here. Man, that's just so interesting. Why? No results for layer anywhere in this. So how is that layer? It just deeply irritates me why that layer is getting set to selection. Place preview bay, place model, spawned model. Here it is. So here's our spawned model. Set my spawn model local scale. That's great. I'm going to set my spawned model. What a hassle. Spawn model will have its own model info. Yep. So I can call it right here. I don't even have to set up a thing where I search through all the children and set the children to the right layers because its spawned model info is sitting right here. Okay. So I'm going to set the layer right here before I do just about anything else. Spawned model info. Dot set select state and I'm going to give it a -1 as the ID I send. So if I'm in my model info, where is my model info? Here it is. Yeah, if the sent ID doesn't match its instance ID, which is absolutely what's going to happen because it's going to get a -1, game object is going to equal 9, which is my regular one. All the children that aren't plan objects are going to equal 9. We're set. It will no longer be in selection. And you go to my am flat one as well and set this up in there. So place preview bay, place model ambulatory. There's my spawned model. Spawned model info. Okay, and in my spawn model info, spawn model info dot set select state and pass it a -1 as my integer. Okay. Is this gonna fix it? Let's find out. All right. One more time. Doing the same thing over and over again. Good. Put my console on. Let's hit B for build. There we go. Give us our cursor. Come on. 1 bay. 2 bays. 3 bays. Okay. Let's hit escape. Thank you. I was in the middle of something. I'm not sure what was happening there, of course. And let's hit escape again so that we're in idle mode. Yes, excellent. Now let's hit edit mode. Let's go grab this middle guy. Let's delete it. Ooh, I built 2. How interesting. How'd I do that? Delete that one. Oh no, not this error. Huh. How many of these guys do I have? We've got a null reference section. Oh. Okay. Null reference exception. Model info rebuild 123. So we don't seem to have any children set. That's weird. So that one was called from 149 in preview bay, which is where I have the set select state. Huh. Why? Why are my children not set? Okay. On start, here's where we're setting our children. We get the transform component in all of the children. All right, let's go back and see if we just keep getting that error and I just never noticed when I was building. It looks like that is indeed the case. Let's go into building. Build, build. Huh. And that creates an error, and that doesn't put things to bed, and that's why I can get all these duplicated objects. Okay. So now I've got to figure out why it's not filling its children when it gets spawned. Has run not happened yet? I mean, a start not happened yet? So strange. My problem is fundamentally I don't understand why the layer of the object is getting set to select when a model gets spawned. That's the big problem. Because no matter what, we should be setting that selection state. When we pop out to idle mode, that selection state should be set to -1 everywhere. It's like a universally broadcast thing. So now I'm dealing with the issue that the children don't get set when it spawns. And that seems a little strange. Huh. That's just odd. There's my spawned model. It is active. So what is happening here? I don't know. Spawn model gets spawned right here. If it is not being loaded in just from the load system, spawn model gets its local scale set. Gets moved into the correct scene. Here's where we set it to active. Spawning model. Are we doing this in the trash man? Maybe that's because it already exists. I don't know. Maybe start's already been called and there's no children. I don't know. Okay, I'm going to create a little. Here we go, patch. We're going to cause trouble here. Find model children. So what this little function is going to do is it's going to populate the all children array of transforms, and I'm going to call that explicitly when this model gets populated. So I'm calling it right there. So it should go find its children and then it should work its magic. Leave a. All right. Save these and see what happens. Oh, good. Let's see what happens. Okay, that error was from playing. It wasn't from compiling. Okay, let's start over again. Can you tell I'm a little tired of this? Get into the builder. Let's build a model. Okay, well, it liked that. Okay, great. That worked beautifully. Hit escape. Good. Edit mode. Let's go select that middle one, which is hard to select because we're giving it a glancing blow. There we go. Delete that object. Marvelous. I'm going to leave that object selected. I'm going to hit escape. Yeah, good. You turned off. I'm going to go back to building and go back into this spot here. I'm going to build a building again. Oh, look. It worked. Marvelous. Okay, so we're back in the building. I'm going to hit escape to pop out of building. Very good. And now I'm going to hit L to jump into our exploration mode. Nice. If I hit L again, I should come up top. Am I still in exploration mode though? Yep, that's exactly what I want. So I can toggle go little, toggle go big. If I'm little and I hit escape, what happens? Eat cake has no receiver. That's a funny error. Okay, let's go chase that one down. What I was wondering is if I hit escape when it was little and I needed to go back to the idle mode, would it grow back automatically? Preview bay rebuild 379. Ah, because, okay. $379. Here's $379. Broadcast, eat cake. But I'd never set eat cake up for anybody. Okay, eat cake, like I said, was my little Alice in Wonderland thing, because that was back in a happier time when I thought I was doing well on this project. I need an eat cake. Yep, I do. Alright. I don't know why I didn't set that up. Add listener. Eat cake. And it runs. Where's my eat cake method? Maybe I'm just broadcasting. I'm probably putting this in the wrong place. Yeah, I'm just broadcasting. I don't need to put a listener for eating cake in here. Goodness. Instead, I need to jump into my shrinker. There's my eat cake. I've got an eat cake listener. That's interesting. Why don't you think there's no receiver when there's one right here? Huh. That's interesting. Shrink view. Where does that script live in a project? Let's go find it. First of all, I don't know why that shows up there. Second of all, it's on the cam scale null. Does that one get turned off sometimes? Let's take a look. Let's watch and see if that one gets turned off. It's still active. Let's go into here. Great. We're in our idle mode. Let's shrink down. Nope, the cam scale null is still fine. Still fine. That listener's still in the scene. If we hit escape, that's weird. Okay, I'm doing something wrong. Something simple. $3.79. Why am I making the reference to eating cake in here anyway? Shouldn't want that. Yeah, this is on building. Why am I even in here? I don't want to enter this. Okay, that is spelled correct. Broadcast message, eat cake. Very good. That is spelled correctly. I'm going to just copy that, but I don't need that to be called in here. I still don't understand why it doesn't think there's a listener for it, because there's a bloomin' listener right here. Let's go up to the top here. This is set up like any other listener. It's even a public method. Yep, it understands that. There's something I'm not seeing here. Okay, where does it need to, when you hit escape? So if we're in the Explorer mode. Yeah, we're still wondering about that one. Okay, right now, nothing's going to happen. Okay, one of my concerns here, so we had that little eat cake call, which, you know, that's fun and everything. All the way down to the bottom here. But our game mode wasn't building. We never should have gotten to this code. Oh yeah, no, if it was exploring. I should not have this block of code in here, period. If we're in building mode, if we're in exploring mode, setup instructions, explore mode equals false, game state master, enter idle mode. Oh, I don't know. put it in here where it probably really properly should be. Get key down, key code escape, or get key down, key code dot back quote. There we go. If game state master dot game mode equals game state master game mode if it's exploring, yeah, that's all I care about. I'm gonna call some eat cake here. Nope, I'm going to only call it if shrunken. So we only need to call this one if we're actually small. Okay, that should pop out of that. Let's go back to my preview mode. I don't know why I've got an exploring thing going on at all here, except that I've got this explore mode thing here. So let's just deal with this. This has the setup instructions and stuff, I guess. That enters idle mode. All right, let's see if we don't get these guys fighting. What I'm afraid is that it's going to enter idle mode before it's picked up here, and it calls eat cake here, at which point it'll just probably collapse. So I am going to actually take out this gate. Well, here it goes. If game mode equals idle, it should still run it. Let's figure out what happens. It should still run the relevant part of the code, no matter what. Okay. Well, whether it's idle or it's exploring, so let's find out. Okay. Oh, am I running into one? Yeah, and then let's get rid of that broadcast message. I don't understand that one at all. One little thing at a time. Here we go. Okay, so if we hit L, we shrink down, everything's cool, we like that. Hit L, we go back up, everything's cool, we like that. Let's just look at our mode. We're still in exploring mode. L, yep, we're shrunken. That's cool and fun. Okay, I'm gonna hit escape now and try to go back to idle mode and try to grow at the same time. We should have grown. Huh. Definitely in idle mode right now. That still didn't work. Got it right here. If the escape key or the back quote key game mode equals exploring, we call eat cake. But over here, if we hit the escape key and the game mode equals exploring, okay, I'm going to take this out right here. And I'm going to put it where it properly belongs. The game mode equals explore, and we've hit the escape key. We're going to call eat cake, and after eat cake is called, we're going to pop into idle mode. Let's see what happens now. Getting close to the end of the session today. I feel like I've made progress, and maybe tonight or something I'll be able to make this tutorial video on the game itself. So there we are. We're all shrunken down. That's cool. Let's hit escape. Oh, that was interesting. Why did it do that? But we're back into idle mode, so that's cool. So we hit L, we're in explore mode, yay. What if we move over here and then we hit escape? Oh, it does this thing where it switches us. Well, anyway, we've popped in and out of idle or explore mode, so that's nice. What happens when we call this in modes other than exploring? Well, I don't know. This manage mouse look is supposed to handle that. I don't know why it runs back. Why it pops back in. It's somewhere in here. But anyway, it's not crashing. It's not giving us weird, unexpected overlapping modes. Okay, I'm going to call this good for now. Obviously, there's some things to iron out still. But we'll get there. In the end, we'll get there. Okay. Well, I think that's it for this week. Hopefully on Monday we'll be back to the Resurrection game, hopefully. So we'll see how far we get over the weekend, and we'll see you on Monday, and it'll be dealer's choice on what game it is we actually are working on. Hopefully it'll be something a little bit more interesting. Anyway, thank you very much for your patience today. I hope you have a great weekend.